Welcome to Spiritual Practices. I am Reverend Nancy Dibelius of the United Methodists of Upper New York. I would like to introduce the spiritual practice of fasting with a slight variation. This is an ancient practice. We have examples of fasting in the Old Testament, in the Gospels, and in the earliest days of the Christian Church. The traditional practice of fasting has been to fast from food, but even in the first centuries of Christianity, individuals began to practice a fast from things in their lives that tended to control them. The intent of fasting is that it serve as an outward sign, a prayerful action that signifies an inward change with regard to the things that control us. By opening ourselves to separating from the things that control us, we open space for God to enter into our lives. We give our life to God. Fasting becomes a prayerful surrender, an acknowledgement that we are not truly in control and that our life is dependent upon God. Just as the desert mothers and fathers entered into solitary life in the desert so they could remove themselves from the distractions of life in the world, fasting can help reveal to us the things that control us and take us away from God. It helps identify the non-essential things in our lives that take up unnecessary room in our lives, room that is better filled by the presence of God. John Wesley taught his followers that the man who never fasts is no more in the way to heaven than the man who never prays. Fasting is a prayer practice, and although we traditionally associate fasting with food, it is equally meaningful to fast from other things. If the intent of fasting is to create time and space to be with God, to develop a deeper, closer relationship with the holy, then anything that demands our attention away from God is a thing to fast from. I would invite you this week to consider fasting from a thing that draws your attention away from God. What are some of the things in your life that have some degree of control in your life? They don't need to be big things or things that we might often think of as negative. It's more about what priority do we give them in our life. For example, watching too much TV, playing too many video games, too much online shopping. What would it look like to fast from those things, to turn control over to God, to spend that time working on your relationship with God? Look carefully at your everyday life and consider what some of those things might be, and choose one, and commit to fasting from that thing for an hour, for a day, maybe even longer, and give that time and space to God.